Hisense U8H to the left, Samsung S95B to the right. Can you really see $1,000+ of a difference over the Hisense U8H in this particular example? Because I know I sure can. Looking at both TVs side by side, they are very identical when you get to normal scenes like this, where there's pretty much full screen brightness all around. The contrast on the Samsung is better, and if you really squeeze your eyes and pixel peep, colors are more vibrant and they are more punchy. But again, you've got to really pixel peep to see that kind of thing. Now, again, that's for this particular example. Obviously, the Samsung S95B overall is the winner. But my point in doing this is to show you that, like, when people want to make comments saying that, like, Hisense is a so-called budget TV, it's just cheap or whatever, trying to downplay how good it really is, I want to show you against literally the best TV I've ever seen, Quantum Dot OLED, the hottest thing on the market right now. How does this thing stack up? So if this excites you, smack the like on this video. And with that, let's continue to get started. So when we look at the Hisense U8H, you can hardly tell that it's an LED display. And I mean, like, it just looks so very incredible going up against an OLED. Now, obviously, the Samsung S95B to the right has significantly better colors. I'm pretty sure you can see the blues, the greens, everything's just more vibrant. And a lot of people try to pass that off as, like, cartoony and just inaccurate, but that's not the case. What I can say, though, is the Hisense is giving you a lot of that same feeling of deep black. I mean, like, I've never seen an LED at this price range ever compete like this, like, ever. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't want to tell you. They want to pretend, like, when you look at demos like this, that it's always a one-sided thing. Like, in a dark room, LEDs have tons of blooming, you just can't get around that. We're gonna pause this YouTube video in real time, okay? And I'm gonna show you, opening up my ISO, which is my camera sensitivity to light here, okay? Let's go to ISO, we're at 640, we're at 800, 1000, 1250, 1600. You see what I mean? Like, you really got to ramp it up to see the blooming. And even then, it's not even real blooming, it's the camera really, you're hyper extending its sensitivity to light to draw that out. But again, putting it back down to where things are properly exposed, which I think was around there, there really is no blooming at all on this device. It looks incredible. Like, this display does such a great job with black levels that it's, like, not even funny at this point. We show off LG OLED demo content on this display. You can kind of see more of the same of what I am talking about. Like, black levels are incredible. Now, because the brightness is so high, because we raised our ISO, we are running into some issues where colors are kind of falling apart in some instances. But again, you're seeing there's no blooming, there's nothing. This is all real time. And it's important that you see this kind of thing, because when they tell you, oh, budget TV, is it going to be as good as an OLED? No. But we can't expect it to be. Like, I almost guarantee you Digital Trends is going to be on that shit. Rtings is going to be on that shit. Like, everybody's always on that dumb shit. Like, they always try to insult you and tell you, like, oh, is it going to be as good as an OLED? Well, of course not. It's like, why would you say that? Like, let me run this back just so we're clear, right? So we know what's up. And also, just look at the beauty of this whole scene right here. Like, that's incredible. Like, look at this. Look at the glory right now. This is fantastic, right? Okay, let's run this back, okay, to the part where we have these on the screen, okay? Not as good as OLED. It's next to an OLED in a dark room, and it is just kicking all kinds of ass, bro. Sony can't do this. I tell you that right now. You buy the X95K, a TV they swear by, it looks so much worse. You buy the Samsung S95B, so much worse. You save a buck and you go with Hisense, you're getting everything you want. And that's the thing. You don't even need to be rich to have this kind of picture quality. And that's the thing that I believe they really don't want talked about, because there are no commissions right now being dished out by these so-called budget brands. It's just all about being hungry and providing an excellent quality of product. And they don't really like that, I imagine, because those affiliate links are at risk that they keep posting on every video they make. I don't know, man. The conflicts of interest are everywhere if you look for them. If we're talking about sports, the Hisense is going to be more jittery for motion and panning shots like this. You're going to see a lot of, again, just like more digitization, it's not going to be as naturally flowing, and that's where it falls apart almost immediately. And that's the difference between high-end processing and entry level processing, if you will, I guess. I don't know. It just doesn't do as good of a job when things are panning super fast across the screen. And so if that's something that you're worried about, then that's obviously one of the downsides or detractors to something like this. But again, the grass looks very natural, and that's really hard for TVs to produce, especially on over-the-air TV. But again, this is not going to be a champion for over-the-air, and of course the edge for that does end up going ultimately to the OLED. But as you can clearly see, the S95B isn't getting slaughtered to the degree that people will try to make you think. It actually looks identical right here in this scene, which is like really crazy, but I'll digress. This is like one of my favorite movie trailers to use because it shows so much of like color and detail, and you can really get an idea. Like the depth, bro, let's run that back for a second. Okay, the depth coming off of the S95B can easily be felt. The moment where he throws the ring, it's just incredible. Like right here. Pause it right here. Okay, just look at the difference. I mean, it's huge. Like this is the difference between OLED when we talk about the S95B and anything else. Okay, the depth coming out of that background, that isolation, those tight lines, so many tight lines, incredible stuff. That's the difference between OLED, okay? That's what it's capable of doing with pixel level illumination and proper calibration. Now, out of the box, the Samsung S95B looks nothing like this, nor does the Hisense U8H. To be, again, very honest with you, I am running my settings. If you want those, you can subscribe to the membership here, join the membership, and you'll be able to access my settings. But regardless, they are capable of this level of picture quality. It's not to say that this picture is bad, but it is a little bit more lighter than it should be in the grass and things like that. Like the image does tend to fall apart a little bit more comparatively to the S95B. And this is the difference on some scenes where even though they're both higher end TVs, you are going to run into some issues on the S95B. But if we look at the black bars are inky clean. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Stuff like that. We play again. And again, all this stuff kind of changes on a scene-to-scene basis, and that's what I like so much about these kinds of comparisons, because on the one hand, the Samsung absolutely has all the detail in the world here. Hisense, though, delivering on that brightness, which can make some scenes, depending on what you're watching, a lot more impactful. I mean, like, take this scene, for example. I mean, it's going to be preferential as to what you prefer, right? Do you prefer the rays of light coming in from the tree lines illuminating off of tails, or do you prefer all the depth in the world and the color punch coming off of this? Like, I prefer this more. That's a me thing. But some people really love that brightness because, again, if you look at the S95B, it's not as bright of a TV as the Hisense, so you're not able to get as much kick behind those highlights. So that is where you do run into that issue of, well, I mean, which one do you prefer? So again, these things become very competitive as we go from scene to scene. As you're clearly seeing here, it just tends to be very competitive. I don't think anybody, though, is going to be as willing to tell you that, like, when you get to scenes like this, when you show things like this, the color can be, again, identical on both. And now the depth looks identical on both. In fact, the U8H is actually pulling ahead of the Samsung S95B. And it gets to this point where it gets very difficult for people to sit here and continue to paint Hisense as some just, oh, it's just a budget TV, when this is your so-called budget TV. It's literally a match for the most part, comparatively to the best TV on the market right now for over $1,000 less. And if you go 65-inch, thousands less. Like, this is incredible. I love showing this because this is real in real time and you cannot fake these results. And that's the thing that, like, the more I do this over the years, the more passionate I get about it, because there is almost a desperation to showcase only the best from Sony, Samsung, and LG, and everybody else basically needs to pay to play. Well, you as a consumer are left in a position of, like, now you believe all these so-called experts, you have no options, and, like, that's just not how it is. If we look at the S95B, it's a fantastic TV. If we look at the Hisense, it's a fantastic TV. And it is, I'm telling you right now, a closer race than what anybody else besides me to this day has been willing to present and tell you. Like, this is, like, incredible hot shit. And anybody trying to paint it as otherwise, like, I saw Caleb with his unboxing talking about, like, you know, digital trends. Oh, it's got some picture quirks. It's like, bro, if you don't shut up with that, bro. Name a TV right now that is this price point that can touch the S95B the way that this Hisense is touching the Samsung. It's literally like a match in some scenes as you're looking and you're seeing, like, what? Like, it's doing such a damn good job for a so-called budget TV. And it's, bro, I am impressed beyond belief. The more examples I show you, the more it's going to be apparent that, like, the S95B, if you look at the depth, again, color, amazing. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, like with color accuracy. The color accuracy is incredible on the S95B. This kind of also debunks people who say like, oh, Samsung is cartoony, they're not accurate. Their color accuracy is amazing. And again, just because the Hisense has the better overall peak brightness doesn't mean in every example that's going to be the case. As you see here, highlight rendering is better on the S95B. You can see every little ray of light that peeks in, things like that. Those are the little details, like, again, if you got a keen eye, you're going to pick up on. But again, does that mean this picture over here to the left is terrible? No, it looks great. It's a solid picture. And there are instances where the S95B gets beaten in terms of highlight rendering. So in the one scene like here, it's just dominating the Hisense to the left in terms of what it's producing. That changes depending on what pops up on the screen. And that's where this becomes a closer race than what people are willing to admit here. Like, again, in this example and most examples, the color accuracy on the S95B through the roof, and the depth is just through the roof. They're really, I mean, this is like 3D without 3D glasses with the Samsung S95B. You cannot deny that. I mean, you can, but you to like no avail. Like, the amount of punch, pop, it's way beyond what my camera can show you with dynamic range. I mean, these black levels, forget about it. The contrast, forget about it. But again, if we look at the Hisense, it's not so far behind as to be totally unrecognizable unless we're looking at scenes like this. This is a slaughter on that because, again, what I was saying in the preliminary findings that I was doing during my first impressions is that Hisense strikes with more of a cooler color temperature, and you're seeing it here. But that is going to be preferentially based. Like, you might like that. Like, for me, I like additive colors. So all of the additive colors that should be here, those rich yellows and things like that, those tend to be a little bit closer to white. They're not as accurate versus here where you get all of the nuanced colors and stuff like that, like all of the cyans and the in-between shades, like and that gradient and color paletry. That's what you're getting when you buy something that is capable of producing that broader spectrum of color gamut. And again, it's not that what Hisense is doing is terrible. It's just they've got work to do in that area. But things get interesting when we start looking at other geometry and other things. I mean, look at the Hisense now having more luminosity here than what the Samsung has. And that's my point. Like, it changes depending on what you're watching and what you're looking at. I mean, look at the difference. It does change. And so to just straight up say like, oh, Hisense loses to Samsung, that's not true at all. It's just, again, back and forth. They really fight hard. Overall, the Samsung is the better TV, but Hisense is closer, I promise you, than what anybody is going to be willing to admit this year. So when you look at the Hisense to the left versus the Samsung to the right, I'm going to tell you like this. Do you get what you pay for with the Samsung S95B? Yes, of course, but look at the Hisense. Does that really look like a budget TV's experience to you? Those black levels, that color, that luminosity, look at this. It's beautiful. It's like a match right now with the Hisense or with the Samsung S95B, which is the most expensive, best TV you can get on the market right now. It's doing such a damn good job that, like, anybody who tries to tell you otherwise is trying to lie to you to sell you something else. There can be no other conclusion I can draw based off of what I'm seeing here. If you're looking for a quality set, you're probably looking for the Hisense U8H if you're trying to save some money. But if you want the best money can offer, then you're going with the Samsung S95B. You're not paying Sony tax and going with the A95K for more washed out color with less pop than the Samsung S95B. And you're not buying the Sony X95K mini LED and getting blooming and like washed out color, more of the same, because they don't use quantum dots where Hisense does. You are going to get the best for your money, and I'm telling you, these two TVs this year are taking names and kicking all kinds of ass. So I want to hear what you guys think about this comparison in the comments down below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.